Yes, Chris, it's today. It is the day. It is Tuesday.
Tuesday, but not just any Tuesday, Jay.
It is
It's
not.
uh, it's TurboTax Tuesday. Wait, no, that can't be right. Um,
It's
it is.
Patriots Day, actually.
Is that what it's called?
Well, no, in Boston it's Patriots Day. It's the day the Red
Oh,
Sox they run the marathon,
oh,
and the Sox play at noon or something like that.
oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Well,
I
we
hope
think.
that's still true. Hope it's still
Yeah,
true. But yeah, yeah, good stuff.
yeah, yeah. So it's so happy Tax Day out there, everyone. I know that this is an arbitrary day because if you did it, you did it. If you didn't, you had the opportunity to extend, and you have 6 more months of tax season or whatever, right? It's Groundhog Day over here,
Well, that's for
tax
some
Groundhog
people.
Day. That's what I'm
Remember,
saying. That's true.
we in Florida had a hurricane, so
Oh,
we
that's right. So
actually
you're not even due yet.
we're not even due yet. May 1st.
There you go. You
Although,
got 2 more weeks.
yeah, no, I'm done today.
That's good.
I will pick back up on May 1st.
There
But
you
yeah,
go.
I'm done today.
That's right.
Yeah.
Welcome everyone to the Practice Playbook, the show where Jay and I talk to you about how to make your firm the modern firm that you want it to be. Today we're going to talk about the future. We're going to talk about two separate forces that are reshaping the profession. The first one of those forces is the kids, Jay. The kids are reshaping the profession. Gen Z's talent is having a big impact. There
For
was a
sure.
very popular article that ended up being published on a couple different websites. I saw it shared actually from Yahoo Finance the second time and from Fortune originally. So I think it's making the rounds. This is around Gen Z. The second force that's reshaping the profession right now is the rise of this idea of connected leadership, and those two things really go hand in hand, because connected leadership is what's going to make sure that that Gen Z talent is feeling appropriately supported in their roles.
And Chris, I wonder why people are thinking, why are they talking about this on tax day?
You know, it is a great question, but the easiest answer is that the article came out this week. But the more appropriate answer is that, man, there's no day like tax day that makes people want to quit. And there is no more stressful time than at the deadlines, and those types of things lead to a couple different things. They lead to the retention crisis that we found ourselves in, right? This issue of keeping people on. Like, if you're running into these deadlines and you're feeling overwhelmed, this is the time when you decide to leave. If there are leadership gaps, there are people out there that are still asking people to work those 70-hour work weeks and 80-hour work weeks to achieve these deadlines, right? And that type of thing, those leadership gaps, have the same problem of supporting that retention issue. And then, of course, the next generation has some different values, right? And so, on a day like today, if we talked about this last week, that if you weren't done, you weren't getting done. If you're not done today, unless you're just waiting for whatever form number it is, what is it, 8879? What's the sign?
Yeah.
You sign this form so I can e-file form.
Yeah, 8879.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you're waiting for 8879s today, you're not. That's really all, I hope that's really like all the effort you're putting in, because there again, you're not making big changes, and I hope you're not having to chase down people with review notes and review comments and all that kind of shenanigans today. Um, so Jay, we talked about this. I don't know the time frame of this, but in the recent past, 300,000 accountants have left the profession. That's what's fueling what this retention crisis that we feel like we have. Um, and and we're lucky, I think, in that there are some things about the accounting profession that are appealing. And I think if we highlight those things properly, we'll continue to see Gen Z folks step in. We'll continue to see the youth actually find accounting as a reliable and exciting opportunity for themselves.
So
But
let's look back on this 300,000 number
yeah,
and why today is appropriate.
yes, tell me.
So the mass exodus started in 2020.
Mm,
And if you go back to 2020, we had a pandemic. We
Yes.
had shut down the world for a couple of weeks. We shut down the economy. We shut down the IRS pretty much, and basically left. Everybody went home, and they left all the mail in the mailroom, and that mail kept accumulating and accumulating until it got to the point where nobody could walk in the room or the warehouse, and they start purging it.
Mm.
So that started the cycle. And not only did we have almost no way to get in touch with the IRS, and then anything that was mailed prior to COVID that hadn't been opened, and then during that tax filing period, it
Yeah.
just sat there and was purged. And then we had PPP loans, ERC loans, ERC credits, and then we had the perpetual tax year. It didn't end. So,
Right.
this busy season for most didn't end for years. And that's what drove people away, because
Right.
you couldn't get anything accomplished. Your clients were bitching. You were bitching. You were burnt out. The IRS was like, yeah, we don't have that. Yeah, F you. So, that was pretty much it. And I completely get it.
Right.
I swore after 2021 I wouldn't touch another tax return for my life. And and here we are.
Oops.
But that's another story. But and people started leaving in droves, and
Yeah.
we started seeing the writing on the wall. And thank heavens for the Gen Zs, and thank the accounting gods for getting us AI and fun tools to play with,
Right.
and all these fun apps, and
Well, that-
all these things to make the job fun.
Right. Well, that's another thing that is important about that original COVID timeframe. A lot of things, there was this, there were a lot of changes that ended up happening. Right. Once lockdowns kind of stopped a little bit, then there was this idea of well, now we've got to get people back to the office. When people had just been functioning fine from home, without any real significant issues, right?
Mhm.
There, like you mentioned, there was the whatever it was, 18-month long tax season, where your work life balance became just an imbalance, where an easy way to distract yourself from all of the other shenanigans of life was work,
Yeah.
right? You had this ability to okay, well, at least I can do something. If I can't go see the symphony, well, at least I can do something. Maybe this will help me pass the time. But more importantly, is during that time there was a lack of innovation, right? There wasn't a lot of change that was happening at that time. There 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 weren't these big pushes and movements toward doing things differently. Everything was still kind of being done in the same way.
No, you're
And
right. The actual change was going remote, and a lot of
yeah,
firms having to pivot and build systems on the fly in order to do that.
hmm,
Luckily, you and I work for a firm. I was in a firm that was already 100% virtual, so it was like any other day. But there
yeah.
are many firms that struggled at first going
Well,
remote.
honestly, truly, that I mean, as a financial statement auditor, right? You were always going to client sites,
Right.
which meant that you were always remote to your office anyway. And so it always seemed a little bit silly to have this idea that being in an office was all that important to me because of that, because I knew that you could do things from different places without there being too much issue. And it's more just an effort of accountability than the actual needing someone in the office. You just don't need them that way.
Right.
And truly, I was moving. One of the reasons that I came to High Rock originally, Jay, is because I was moving to the suburbs from the downtown area. The office that I worked in was in downtown. It was basically always rode my bike to work. It was that close. and 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 I wasn't going to have to be in the office all of the time, but I was going to have to be in the office enough that a 50-minute commute was not appealing,
Yeah.
Each way, right? And so like that was a factor that had a significant impact on me. Like it
For sure.
past all the excitement that I have around advisory work more broadly. Um, and so I think that that was an important thing for a whole lot of people, and I do think that that's an important thing for the people that are coming into the profession now. So our Gen Z Gen Z, oh my gosh, what do you call the people that are your contemporaries? Oh my gosh, whatever. Our future coworkers here
Yeah.
from Gen Z.
Yeah.
That some of these things have sparked that renewed interest in accounting, right? The first one, the there are I think the three main things that are important, right? Um, Jay, I have I ever told you the story of how I ended up deciding I wanted to do accounting?
No.
So in the eighth grade, yeah, eighth grade. That's how exciting I am as a person. In the
Okay.
eighth
You
grade,
beat me by 1 year.
yeah. So in the eighth grade, we had one of those one of the like your parents come and tell you about their work, whatever those are, career days or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And one of my classmates' mom was an accountant. And the takeaway that I had from this conversation with the accountant was that you dealt with numbers, which math was always and forever my favorite subject. And the second one was that you could make a lot of money. And I was like, numbers and money, I'm in. Um, and I think that that pay, like, it remains appealing, right? Like, you have this opportunity in accounting and in public accounting as well to go right out of college pretty quickly into a well paying job that will
For sure.
pay you like a great amount for a career going forward. And so that becomes really appealing. And so that's a thing that I think that the accounting profession should continue to accentuate. The second thing is Jay, the real reason why I came to High Rock, and that's for purpose. And and so the way that I would describe that is that I know here that my intention is to provide my clients with value so that they can make strong decisions. And that means that I'm helping people, you know, succeed in life, like that kind of stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
business life. And that gives me purpose. It gives me excitement. And that is one of the really valuable things that you can get out of the accounting profession. Jay, I know we've talked about those two things. Do you have any extra thoughts around pay and purpose as it comes to Gen Z?
You know, I've in the last couple of years, it's always talking about the millennials and
Mm-hmm.
anywhere, any place, any device, and I think that's just going to continue. I
Right.
think that work when you can, play when you can, just
Yeah.
get the shit done is what's going to really rule the roost. And
Right.
that's kind of what I do. I mean, I if I'm awake at 5:30 in the morning, I jump in here, I get work done. I go
Yep.
and do what I need to do during the day. I put in my 8 to 10 hours. It might not be cohesive time. I mean, you
Yep.
jump in at night. Last couple nights it's been late nights here for me.
Yeah.
But and I think that's a lot of what Gen Z is going to bring. And
Yeah.
a
Absolutely.
lot of supervisors are going to have issues with that. They're
Yeah.
going to have to adapt, and that's probably where you're going to go shortly. But
Well,
I just want to jump back to eighth grade for you, and
yeah.
this was my junior year in college. So my uncle was a CPA with Pete Warwick.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I knew. I mean, I saw him carrying computers around. I mean, computer about the size of my desk was his portable. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. Like I said, in ninth grade. But in college, I was in Beta Alpha Psi. I'm sitting there, and in comes these two FBI agents, and they're talking to us. And I heard numbers, good pay, guns. I'm in. Yeah,
Boom.
I was in.
That's all it takes.
And didn't quite go that way because ended up in healthcare instead. But FBI, if You're
Right.
looking
It's
air
convincing.
marshal.
Right.
Yeah.
It's convincing, right? And you've alluded to actually the last thing that I think is a really important thing that the accounting profession allows, right? And that is this ability for progress. And I mean that in a lot of different ways, right? The first one is that you there are never ending situations, and especially in the world environment as it is right now, there just are never ending situations to be able to learn something new.
For sure.
And accounting is that way. And Jay, we've talked about that on this show because you're doing that right now. You're learning coding with the intention of building out different modules and success things for an accounting firm, right? Like that is what you're literally doing
Yep.
right now. That progress that progress isn't just limited to learning either. It's also progress in the way that you described of anywhere, anytime, any device, right? You have the ability as an accountant to have a morning on the beach, do your work in your hotel room or whatever, and still enjoy the work from anywhere, right? There's
Yeah.
there in the cloud-based environment that we're in now, you have the flexibility to do your job from anywhere. If you want to do it on the coast of Portugal, you can. If you want to do it, in just your house, like you can do that too. You have a lot of flexibility, and I think that flexibility is, really appealing.
But there are some limitations there. Because recall, it wasn't this last year, the year before, me trying to have a call from the grandstands of Bristol Motor Speedway while qualifying was going on.
Yeah.
That didn't work quite as well. Granted, it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but still did not go as well.
Yeah,
But
so
anywhere,
some
any
restrictions.
place, yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Yes.
But there and Jay, as we've talked about, like the different ways that tools are getting more powerful, like that is going to be even more so the case, right?
For sure.
Right now, to be able to do a lot of the things that you need to be able to do, you at least need a reliable Wi-Fi connection. Like that is true. There is some limitation there, but I don't think we're that far from a future where all the devices will connect to just directly to mobile networks, and you'll be able to
Yeah.
basically like Skynet or whatever. What's Musk's thing? The Skylink.
Skylink, yes.
Yeah, like where you could just like have satellite connection to basically anything, anywhere, anytime, right? We're not that far away from that future, which means that you can maybe be in a mountain,
Yeah.
just on the mountainside, and stop your rock climbing for a little while and take a phone call, like whatever it might be, right? Review a balance sheet from an ice cap. I don't know. Like that's these are obviously dramatic, but there is a lot of flexibility there. And the final thing, Jay, I think is that as it comes to progress, the final thing that I want to talk about is one that you alluded to also, and that's that technology is changing in such a way that accountants are going to be some of the people who get to influence and impact it first. And
For sure.
and we're going to get to see how those things interact, especially as business advisors. You're going to be able to have the conversations with the people who are implementing these tools, um, as they're making these decisions, as they're looking to decide, how do I make this AI module work best for me? Like you're getting to be there right alongside them while they do it.
Yeah.
And that and and being on the forefront of exciting technological development, is really appealing too. and so I, at least, I can sympathize very much with the ideas of this, right? Of those things that may be valuable to the upcoming generations. And so some of the things that we as accounting firms or we as accounting professionals need to do is make sure that we're attracting that talent by doing some of those things that we talked about, like like maybe not being quite as professional in some of the ways that we talk, in making sure that we have this flexible culture that allows people to understand, like, yeah, we know you can do this from anywhere, and that's okay. And then also ensuring that we have really effective training programs on both how to do things now and how to be aware and do things in the future. So Jay, if you think about how accounting firms should, or like accountants more broadly, should consider like appealing to future generations, is there anything specific that we didn't talk about that they should be thinking about too?
I just want to say I think that like you said, that technology is shifting so quickly.
Right.
And a month ago, if we wanted to do something with Zero, we had to be able to build into the API and do that manually.
Right.
Now they have what they call a model context protocol server, which is MCP. And granted, it doesn't connect to the US entities yet, but it's coming. But basically, if you build this right, you can send yourself a Slack message or a Telegram message or a WhatsApp message and push it into one of your no-code automation tools. It'll go in and pull whatever that information is out of Zero and pull it back and bring it into you, right back to the same device you sent it out on. So, we already have JAX built into Zero. That's just as Zero. And it's kind of doing the same thing, but you have to be on the Zero dashboard to do it. This MCP server will allow you from, let's say, the grandstands at Bristol Motor Speedway to make a request into Zero, getting information. And from that information, allow you to create an invoice from a Slack message. So, it's amazing what this is going to do and what freedoms and, just what it's going to allow the future accountants of the world to do and have.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one of those things that's going to be important along that road is an adaptation by leaders from like your old like managing partner style model into a more inclusive, more adaptable, more flexible leadership model. I think, Jay, I think a lot about like how the accounting model is the public accounting model is really unique that way. Mm-hmm. in that it does like it is, there hasn't been a lot of innovation that I've seen in a long time, right? You bring people in, you from an audit perspective, right? You're like giving people the easy tasks their first year and challenging them a little more their second year, and it just keeps working that way where some people get burnt out quickly and bounce out to private work. Some people are like, "Ooh, this accounting thing was a mistake altogether," and then some people try to stick it out for the long haul with this idea of a very pyramidal, up to the top type structure, and with PE coming in and all of the things that go along with that as well. Like it is time for a new and revisited model.
Agreed.
And I think the most important thing that goes along with that, and Jay, we've talked about this on the e-commerce hour more than we have here, but the idea of both social proof and trust, right? Leaders are going to need to build their social proof within their firm to say we can do a lot of things, but you just can't automate trust, right? You have to be able to be flexible and to support the people that are on your team. You need to be able to train them, teach them things, and be willing to dive in if people need help that way. Jay, when you think about the old model of leadership versus maybe the future expectations, do you have extra thoughts or other thoughts on that?
Well, I think moving forward, it's going to lean on that know, like, and trust model that we talk about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to have to be a bi-directional relationship between manager and employee, just like it is with advisor and client. I mean, you have to have that trust that they're going to get the job done and have the skill to do it and have the desire to do it. And, you have to know that your manager understands you and likes you and trusts you as well. So I think that's going to come into play here. And, going to be very interesting moving forward.
Yeah. And I do think that that then moves into this idea of connected leadership. And as we've done several times on this show, we stole this from AT Think. So shout out to AT Think for the idea of this connected leadership model. Um, and to specifically, let's call her out, Amy Vetter. Connected leadership, she said, is like conducting an orchestra. It's beautiful music comes from relationships, not just the technical precision, and all of the things that we've been talking about, building this trust, no like and trust, like all of that stuff. That has nothing to do with the execution of a work product. It just doesn't. The best leaders are the people who make you feel valued as a person, and who are spending time connecting to you and connecting you to the work that you're doing, to your clients, and to the world around you, right? Um, Jay, if you think about connected leadership that way, does that does that highlight it, or are there extra thoughts or feelings that you have around that?
No, I think you've nailed that on the head. So I think we're good there.
Yeah. And so if we were to like consider what to do differently, right, Jay? So how do you get from where you are now to making sure you're ready for the future? I think it is an important thing to consider, like, I don't know, Jay, auditing your leadership style. Are you doing those things? Are you focusing on people first? Are you focusing on humans first? Or are you focusing on tasks first? Like, how are you introducing like your feedback to people? How are you starting those conversations? Like, all of those things become much more important as you're looking to develop relationships. Um, Jay, when's the last time you've audited your leadership style?
It's been a while. I've been heads down for a while, so
Yeah,
I haven't had that opportunity. But you know,
right.
I know my leadership style has changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
I was like a a Navy SEAL going into into battle at one point, and yeah. But I think I knowing that I had a daughter, that changed me a lot.
Hmm. Yeah.
I was yeah, yeah. I I was very rough and gruff, and I had a lot of demands, and having a daughter changed that because she had a lot of demands. So it's like, oh wait, I got to change that a little bit. But I mean, I can't really blame that on her. But I could definitely say it changed my attitude towards my management styles, and I am more of a trust but verify now.
Oh yeah, the auditor. That is the audit move.
Yeah, and go ahead, and I will teach you how to do it, and then verify you got it right, and then give you the space. Some would say the space to hang yourself, enough rope to hang yourself, but that's not truly the case. I'd be watching from afar and make sure everything's okay, but and at one time I would. And I think I talked about this on here about delegation and not doing it soon enough. And, to me, early on, it was easier just do it. And, I didn't see the other side of that where, you're doing it and you keep doing it. You're not giving anybody the opportunity to take it over. And not only that, but you're taking the time and you're not giving yourself the ability or the time to move into other things. So it's so important to notice when the time is right to delegate, and it is a lot earlier than we do it. You got to do it earlier on because you need to have that space yourself to grow. Because if you keep doing those jobs, you're gonna keep doing them and not have the time for those learning opportunities that are coming.
Yeah, for the rest of your team, right? Absolutely. And so there are a few things that you can do, right, to make sure that you're trying to be the leader that you want to be, right? So Jay, to your point here, right, make sure that you're creating the right boundaries, right? be an example for your team of, I can delegate this to you, which means that you can delegate it to other team members, right? Show folks how it is that you can dedicate time to yourself to create boundaries. That may mean things even like specific rituals, like no meeting Fridays or something like that. But things that your team can see as opportunities to balance out your life, right? Because that's going to be an important impact on the generations coming up. Another one, of course, is to always make sure you're listening, and that, it seems like a really silly thing to say, but taking that extra beat sometimes in order to make sure that you've heard the feedback that someone's giving you can be really, really critical. And so it can be really important in establishing connection within a relationship, to make sure that you're taking the time to listen. I know that sounds really silly. Um, I know if you think about the old business models, right? The oldest book in the one of the things I was proudest of in my maybe third year as an auditor, Jay, was like, I think I had 2,300 billable hours or something, right? Like some just absurd number, because that was what we measured, right? We measured these billable rates. And I know that later, and at the second firm that I was with, we were so worried about realization, because because we really truly like needed some more work, right? And so we had this like balance between billable hours and realization, and making sure that everybody was working all the time, right? And so rather than like measuring those types of things, it can be really important to measure human elements too. And I know that can seem like a really silly thing to measure, but like, I don't know, dinners with my daughter or something like that. If I was measuring that now, like, that's by far the thing that I care about the most. Like, the number of hours in the day that I get to spend with my child is the most important thing to me, and that's going to be true, not just of me as a new parent, but also of the generation incoming. Like, they're going to want to be able to engage with their lives in different ways than what the historical models asked for. And so finding a way to measure that is going to be really important as well, because measuring those things that matter. Like, that's what gets managed, right? That's where people spend their time with focus. And then, Jay, I think here at High Rock we do a pretty good job of this, but getting comfortable with vulnerability, right? Like, being open to say, hey, you know what, I just don't know the right answer, or taking that feedback of, hey, you need to be better at this. Like, those are things that can be uncomfortable, but become really important as you're building those relationships, right? So I think that can be a really important step in the future. Um, and so auditing your leadership style and implementing some of these things can be really easy ways to show and to transition the culture of your firm from that task focus into human focus. Another thing that people talk about a lot, or at least consider a lot, and Jay, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, is consider adding younger voices to your advisory boards or to your internal planning. I know I think of Gen Z as like kids, like literal kids, but some of the oldest folks in Gen Z are like almost 30 now. Like, that's not kid. That's just a professional like all the rest of us, right? And so it can be important to make sure that you're getting the perspectives from a lot of different angles. Jay, have you ever considered having a younger member on an advisory board or an internal planning committee or anything like that?
Yeah, most definitely. And
Yeah.
before I joined High Rock at my firm, and so we had a number of interns coming through, and one was phenomenal, and I would ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And the local school here in Orlando, UCF, I went to
Yep.
one of I was used to going to accounting conferences,
Mm.
and in Florida with that FICPA, and I brought the average age down, way down. And you know, I went to one at UCF, and I was just amazed at the work and the preparation and the skill of these students. So
Yeah.
that opened my eyes up to bringing them in as interns, and really bouncing ideas off of them,
Right.
because being set in my ways. It's a lot easier to ask them than to ask my peers, because they're set in their ways as well.
That's
And
right.
uh, accountants are, we don't like change, but
Not typically.
not typically,
Nope.
right? I mean, I tend to, but that's I'm not normal.
Unusual. Yeah.
But these students, they were change agents, and it was good.
Yeah.
So it was very good there. And the other thing, and you brought it up earlier about what was measurable to you, and that was spending time with your daughter, and meals with your daughter and things like that. For
Yep.
me, it was 12 years of dance competitions,
Yeah.
and 9 out of the 12 years we went to, was it 9 out of 12? Maybe 6 out of 12. We went to nationals for this one competition that was held the second weekend in April.
Mm.
Well, that would have been this past weekend.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I was there with my laptop, sitting there, and I'd watch my daughter dance and interact and things like that. And I would sit with the other dads, and I'd be doing tax returns, and they're watching the Golf Channel or whatever. But
Sure.
it's about having that flexibility to
Right.
do what you need to do and be with your family. And whether it was here in Orlando, Myrtle Beach, those were some of the. Well, a lot of it was here in Orlando, and we went to Myrtle Beach like 3 or 4 times, and but you participate in the family functions, and yet you're still there working. I know
Yeah.
I interviewed somebody from the balcony of the hotel in Myrtle Beach that I had later hired. So
Nice.
things like that. The things you remember from
Right.
from those trips, and I will never call it vacation, because it's not vacation. I was actually just working remote. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that obviously that's really important, right? You're not everybody is so interested in taking advantage of the flexibility that we are afforded. I know I've heard so many stories about partners in accounting firms that have basically spent no time with their children,
Yeah.
and then I think we need to change the mindset that's just not the way it needs to be. That ability, we can change that. and and then Jay, go ahead.
I think earlier you called it work-life balance.
Sure.
It is not work-life balance. It's work-life integration,
Right.
because they intertwine. You're not balancing it at all. You're going from work to life to work to personal,
Right.
back and forth. And if you set it up right, it works very well.
That's right. That's right. And so that would be some excellent advice for going forward, right? Set up your work-life integration as effectively as you can. Make sure that it's blending together as seamlessly as it should, so that you can enjoy both work and life, and hopefully not have to spend too much time doing both. One other thing that I think is a really important takeaway, and Jay, you mentioned this, right? But sure, not smaller firms aren't going to just have an advisory board or an internal planning group or whatever. But what you can do is exactly what Jay did, right? And that's take feedback from every layer of your team. So understand that there are different perspectives that can provide different value for you. On the other side, right, if you're a young accountant, if you're just coming into the profession, or I guess you've been in the profession maybe 4 or 5 years now, if you're one of the older Z's, ask for mentorship, right? Seek those leaders with empathy. Reach out to Jay and I. I'd love to talk to I'd love to talk to some of the new accountants and get that feedback anyway. right? You may not work at High Rock, but I'm interested in getting your feedback all the same. And then also make sure that you're getting involved in purpose-driven programs. Like again, so if there are things that you're passionate about, maybe that's volunteering stuff, and you can be in a program like Vita, where you're volunteering and helping people prepare their returns, right? Like that can be a really valuable thing if that's what you want to do with your life. And so making sure that you're aligning the work product that you have with what you're intending to do with your life is important. And so, Jay, as we come to a close today, we talked a little bit about a lot of different leadership styles and what the future may look like. And so, what I'd love for listeners to do today is to take some time to think about your leadership style. Consider whether you need to audit it and make some changes. Consider ways that you can connect with your team more intentionally. So, what can you do just right now to connect more intentionally with your team so that you can build more of those human bonds that are what make relationships and work powerful and valuable to everybody? Jay, if you had some other takeaway, what would it be today? Or do you have another takeaway?
I would connect with everybody on your team. Yeah, I mean, that's, situational. If you have a smaller firm, talk to everybody. If you are in a larger firm, talk to your department, people around you,
Right.
and find out what's going on in their lives. Connect. Build rapport, build that know, like, and trust factor, and grab a cup of coffee and sit down and talk about the NBA playoffs or
Starting tonight.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Talk about that next NASCAR race.
Yeah. Again, building out those human elements becomes really important. If you've done something in the past where you're like, oh my gosh, I did this particular thing and it was one of my favorite changes that I ever made to the way that I interacted with people, drop that in the comments. I want to see that so that I can steal it from you. And make sure that we highlight it here so that people can also hear that feedback. So make sure also to be ready to tune back in next week at 4 Central, 5 Eastern, right here on the Practice Playbook. Jay, I have no idea what we're talking about next week. Do we know yet?
I'll be on an airplane. So.
Oh, okay. So we're probably not talking about anything. Oh, that's right.
Oh, wait. Actually, it's Tuesday. We might. No, I'm thinking Friday.
Oh,
we might. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what our schedule's going to be.
Phoenix.
We're going to be in Phoenix next week. Yeah.
So
yeah.
We'll
get back to you on that.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted as to what happens.
Yeah.
But no, definitely within 2 weeks' time, you can catch us right here on the Practice Playbook, where we'll continue to talk about things that matter to the accounting profession and that help to modernize your firm. So thanks for spending time with us today. We look forward to seeing you next time. I'm Chris. He's Jay. We'll see you when we see you.
May your tax season be over.
May your tax season be over.
Kinda.
Your first pass tax season be over.
Regular season's over. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.